Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard with your host Bill Stierle, and we're going to continue our discussion about the drummer and the journey through the forest to the Glass Mountain. We've done that in 2 episodes prior. We've gotten to the top of the Glass Mountain and encountered the Hag, and now I think we need to continue talking about the 3 tasks that the Hag gives the drummer. Is that right, Bill?
That's correct. Tom, one of the biggest challenge in the political world right now, as well as in marketing and branding and promoting a person's product or service, as politicians are doing right now, is they're trying to create an identity. And one of the biggest challenges is when you create an identity and stand for something, people hold you to that identity. They hold you right on spot to that identity. You're this. And then they tag a meaning on top of that identity. You are standing for this, therefore you mean you're A. And then they, put the label on it, and then they create a meaning around it. And most of the time that's not really very true, or it doesn't really encompass, fully what the person is standing for. Yet what winds up happening is the candidate, whether it's Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker, they're still, Pete Buttigieg, they're still getting stuck in that, they say one thing and their identity is, gets stuck there. They said this, therefore they're one of those people that say that. And it's really tough. And it's one of the reasons why President Trump has been so successful, is that he hops to the new identity and doesn't allow that to stick so much. So he becomes very Teflon-y as an identity. And the person makes up a belief about him and says, no, he's this person. And you're going are you listening to the last thing he just said? Have you listened to the last 5 things he said on this thing? No, their brain has been tricked into believing that their identity is stuck because there's no time to have a discussion on what identity he actually has. So this part of the story is going to help us with that and help us understand how to find the truth in messaging and how to allow that message to carry forward. Because if you're standing for one message and you stay too long on it, people just pigeonhole you into that message and keep their identity in that spot. Does that make some sense, about how that truth is, being constructed?
I think it does. It'll be, I think, helpful to really have us talk about an example, maybe.
Awesome. Yeah. So now that little piece of the framework is done, we could take a look at what the example might be. Is that if Joe Biden tells a story that's a conglomeration of different stories, the Iraq war and things like that, and he's telling a conglomeration of stories, that story then could say, well, wait a minute, they're not all in the same spot, and they're just being woven together. And that's one of the challenges, is that if if you do that, you're just going to get eaten. It's you're spending too much time defending the story. But if you keep it short the way Trump does, you don't get eaten on it, because he does it in such untrue sound bites, or partial true, or modestly true. The person's still standing with the old belief that he's this guy, and they don't question they give him a pass. They give him the pass. Even the news anchor will give him a pass. No, Trump doesn't lie. Well, what he does, though, is he gives small messages that, when we measure the truth of it, regrettably, it's not much above a level 6, and most of the time it's a level 4, and maybe even sometimes it's just not even. It's just a 1 or a 2 on truth scale, 10 being the truth. It's very, very modest, or very low, or very closer to the untrue part of the story, because truth is regrettably, truth is like a spectrum. It's not really. Yeah, I know people want to argue this one with me. Isn't a fact a truth? Well, if it's written in a textbook, does that make it a fact? Well, if a textbook has to be rewritten every 2 years or 4 years, because some of the facts that they wrote in there aren't really true, or not really language accurately, then truth is on a scale. Then things are evolving, and we should, in a really positive sense, have an evolving message as human beings. And that's why truth is so important to us to keep coming back to, is here's where this truth is in this moment. So does that Joe Biden example give you a little bit of, and then we can relate it to the Hag story. So
Yeah, no, the Joe Biden one does make sense. It's interesting, though, because I hear what you're saying about how, Trump is very good at doing this a lot, right? But you're right. He doesn't tell this. I want to use the word oratory. He doesn't go on with this long story about something. He speaks in headlines, in sound bites, right? They're
That's right.
very quick. Joe Biden really recently tells this long story that, of trying to put a medal on this, I think, Iraq or Afghanistan war veteran who didn't want to do it. And while there is definitely some truth to that, there was a lot in the story. He went on and on and on, droned on about this story and a lot of details about it, to the point where people start fact checking it and poking holes in it. And we're like, wait, is that really true? Did that happen there? And I guess it was 3 different stories coming together. And that really has now seemed to hurt Joe Biden. And I think there's a key difference, is that Joe Biden didn't, I think, intend to tell a story that was lower on the truth scale, whereas Trump doesn't care where he is on the truth scale. Does that, I don't know how that plays out.
Yeah, it's not. I'm not going to do that. I'm managing this series of moments right now, and it is, every time he comes out for Chopper Talk, Chopper Talk is really what he does. I'm going to come out and stand in front of the helicopter.
I love how you call that Chopper Talk. It's almost like coffee talk or something, right?
Chopper Talk.
Yeah.
So Chopper Talk lands a certain way, and here's the message. And what are you going to do with such a small message? Okay, so let's get back to our story here. Now, what happened is that one could argue that the hero in our story stole the saddle from the 2 guys at the bottom and got to the top of this glass mountain to first get and meet the Hag for the first time. But what he did is he knew where he wanted to go, and he didn't want to get caught in whose saddle it was or whose saddle it wasn't, because it was a magic saddle. And because he just wants to go, and he's just going to choose not to get caught in the daily mental arguments between 2 points of view. Tom, have you ever got caught for a minute or two or 7 or 15 or 20 minutes? Should I do this or should I do this?
Sure.
Okay, that's a saddle conversation.
So is this difference between being like a decision maker and taking action versus sort of staying in this place of permanent potential, weighing the options?
Most of the candidates are in permanent potential.
Oh, wow.
Most of the candidates are permanent potential. You know, Tim Ryan, I have a plan. Well, we have a plan. Wait, no. Or, I mean, Elizabeth Warren kind of has claimed the plan thing. We have a plan for that. We've written about that. This is what it is. If you'd like to go look at it, go look at it over there. Go look at it over there is putting the stick out there in the distance and letting the reporter go run on it. It's like, I'm not talking about that. Well, I'm going up there to the Glass Mountain. I've already decided on this. This is what this is going to look like when I'm there.
Interesting.
Even Amy Klobuchar has done that too. Here's what the first 100 days are going to look like. Here's what the 4 years are going to look like. Really?
So for those people that are very interested in the detail, which is not the broad electorate as a whole, but there are some people that maybe want to look under the hood and see does it make sense. They can go and get that, but the candidate isn't stuck focusing on that and arguing truth or facts.
That's right. That's right. Listen, I've written about it. If you want to go run over there. And that's a saddle conversation.
So you run over and get to the starting point of the race, and then by then I've gotten the saddle and I've gone to the top.
I've gone to the glass and now I'm president, and you're going over there and looking at what the plan I wrote 5 months ago, and I wrote that plan. I'm doing that. Okay.
So yep, I got it.
So now when the drummer gets to the top, he's stuck there, the sun going down, and is really tired, and he needs simplicity at this point, because as he's walking to the hut on top of this mountain, and there's this grass field there. There's this small lake on one side. There's a forest on another side, and he's walking towards this hut, and there's some smoke coming out there. The hag stares at him and says, "Are you here because someone sent you, or are you here of your own accord? Which one are you here for?" The drummer does not answer that question. If he answers the question, he's eaten. The hag will eat. He will be trapped there. Are you here because you're here because someone sent you, because somebody says, "Hey, you would really make a good president"? Some of the candidates, somebody told them, "Oh, listen, I'd vote for you." It's like, you would? Well, then maybe I'll run. A good donor is really great. You'll get eaten there. You have a good donor. The donor threw a bunch of money at you. You took the donor's money and you spent the donor's money. And you're not. Are you here of your own accord, or somebody sent you? Somebody sent you. You didn't go because the molecules of your body saying, "This is what integrity and leadership looks like as the president of the United States." Has anybody said that?
Nope.
No, this is what integrity and leadership looks like. He's not doing it. I will do that. Now the hag has that. Now all of a sudden it's like, I am here because, I'm something in the cells of my body says I'm here to rescue the princess. Something in the cells.
But it's still, if he states that he's there of his own accord, that's still answering the hag's question, and you don't want to do that.
Don't do that. You're just because any potential president that comes straight out and says, I'm going to do it, he's not doing it, will get eaten too. So they can't say it even. So it's really hard. It's really,
So
I'm not saying it's hard because you've got to work with the Hag right now.
so it's really one of those things where it doesn't matter if you are actually that leader and you have integrity. Saying it isn't going to have anybody believe it. You really
Nope.
have to demonstrate it, it
You have
sounds
to demonstrate it. Thank you very much for the word demonstrate, because that's what the Hag makes him do next. So he spends the night. The Hag feeds him that night. He sleeps in the hut with the Hag, that, with this woman, and he she says, "You can sleep here. Just promise to do these 3 tasks, and you can sleep here and have food, and you can rest here." And he goes, "Okay." He says, "Yes, I'll do that." And so the next morning when the sun comes up, he wakes up, but the Hag is already awake.
okay.
Hag's already there. Have you ever woke up in the morning and all kinds of stuff on your mind instantly?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, that's it. That's that moment right there. The Hag is already up. The Hag is already up before you get up.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah, I'm
Ready?
ready.
He,
Yeah.
he comes. He comes out of the house and he looks out, and over by the lake, the Hag is standing over there. So he walks over to the lake, and and the Hag says to him, "I have this one small task. It's a very easy task." And he had already agreed to do the task.
Right.
It's very easy. It's an easy task to do. Here's this thimble. Here's this thimble. Here's this thimble. Here's the thimble.
Right.
What I'm going to ask for you to do, what I really need done is, I need all the water out of this lake, and I need all the fish in the lake lined up by size and type.
And he's supposed to use the thimble to remove the water from the lake?
Yeah. That's the task. It's a small task, she says. "I think you can do this. This is a very easy task to do. Small task." That's very similar to managing the moments of a presidency. You cannot, every moment is a thimble. Every moment is the right thing to say at the right time. You've got to manage the moments. You cannot think about, holy crap, I am emptying the water of a lake. As soon as you think that, you're in big trouble because it's too big. The federal government is too big for the brain to run on straight out logic. You cannot run it that way. You have to run it as a mixture of logic, emotion, implementation, and vision. If you don't have those 4 ingredients, you're going to get creamed. And if you get stuck in any one of those 4, which Trump never does, you never get stuck because he's always shifting. Not a lot of logic there, but the logic there is more centered around belief bias. He just keeps going back to his base on the belief structures. Those bad people over there. That's what he's doing. He keeps going back to the belief structure, and that's one way he keeps all his people in a line, because he just does that same marketing and sales message. Everybody's got that's listening to this, it's all about marketing and sales, which is something he knows how to do, which is capture media, get media to pay attention, get the media giant to carry him. He's going to be the most ignored person unless the media wants to keep ratings after his presidency. If they want to keep ratings, they'll keep reporting on him, because they're always going to get eyeballs. If they say former President Trump said this, eyeballs come right back to him. But and there's a bunch of media out there that really is not interested in the well-being of America or the well-being of the U.S. citizens. Not interested in that. They're interested in, how can we get more eyeballs to watch us so that advertisers will look at our numbers and keep spending advertising money.
Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense to me, Bill, although I'm not really getting a lot of warm, fuzzy feelings about the future of our country with the president that just needs to market and sell and doesn't need to necessarily accomplish anything. So I'm hoping there's more to the story.
Yeah, there is. So what happens then is that he says, very well. He takes the thimble in his hand. The hag goes back into the hut. He takes the thimble and starts thimbling the water out, working as fast as he can, thimbles it out. He then tries to use his hands. He then tries to figure other ways to get the water out of the lake. And by noontime, he's worked as hard as he could and has never gotten anywhere. These are all the 1% candidates.
Okay.
They are trying to thimble out the lake with a thimble and trying to get the water out of there. And once in a while, a fish will show up and they're lucky on the shoreline and they scoop it up and put it up there. It's called a micro moment in media. So anyways, so finally he, at noontime, he's tired, he's hungry, sits down at the edge of the lake, sits down, puts his head in his hands, and says, why did I even start this? Why did I even do this?
Yeah.
So if you think about one of the guys that dropped, he had his moment with Joe Biden. I got to think of the California congressperson. But he had his moment. Well, you had your time. It's our time now. You had your time. You're on the old school guy. He had his moment. He's stuck. I don't remember his name, but at least I remember the moment. And many people are going to say, oh, remember that moment when you told that wonderful story about you were an 8-year-old and you saw Joe Biden speak and that inspired you to go politics. And now here you are and you're facing Joe Biden. Like, holy crap, that's a great story.
Yeah.
Each of the candidates are not crafting their stories in such a way that they're creating those anchoring moments. Joe Biden got in trouble with his war story because it needed to be short, sweet, and out, and then go to the next story. Do not get caught in explanation. Stories are not policies. Policies are what you do with the saddle. You say to them, hey, you want to go read that? That policy's over there. Thank you very much. Right now, I'm trying to build truth and trust with the constituents that are going to vote for me, or that policy is never seeing the light of day. And all the work that I put into that. So he's sitting there. He's tired. He says, why did I even come here? Oh, yeah, the princess, I was here to rescue her. But God, is it really worth it? Is it really worth it to run for president? Is it really worth it to fight for truth? Is it really worth it to deal with these insurmountable tasks, healthcare, education, wars, government, gun control? You see how I'm starting to sit on the shoreline too, go like, how the hell are we going to do these issues with all these? Look how big these issues are. Obama never did that. Even after the midterm election, when he got pasted, he didn't care. I mean, he cared, but he didn't get stuck. He just said, I'm tired. I need rest. When did he read? After they lost the midterms. All the Republicans were in there. He had to deal with 2 groups of Republicans. It didn't stop him. He passed. He signed legislation into action. Even in the face of all the obstructionism that was going on. He saw that they were up to, they're doing obstruction. Okay. So as the drummer is sitting by the shoreline, What happens next is really significant. He's gone, I'm tired. I need rest. I'm hungry and I need some food. And magically, without him seeing it, a woman comes out of the hut magically with a basket filled with food and bread and wine, and comes out, sits next to him and says, "You're tired. Here's some food. Here's some wine. Let's make this easier for you. Put your head in my lap and take a nap."
Okay.
So what would you do?
That's pretty hard offer to turn down. Yeah.
Eat some food, drink some wine, take a nap.
Right.
Right. So he does. And while he's napping, she holds her hand up and she's got this gold ring on her finger. And she turns the ring once and says, "Fish out." And all the fish jump out of the lake onto the shoreline in size and type.
Oh, wow. Okay.
She turns a ring for the second time. Water out. The water magically is eliminated out of this small lake. Water goes out.
Okay.
After about an hour and a half, maybe a couple hours, he wakes back up. She's sitting there. He looks out and the water's out of the lake. And the fish are lined up here. She says, "How did you do this?" He says, "How did you do this, Dory?" She goes, "It was easy.
Yeah.
Rest. Eat. Care for yourself. Let the visions come to you.
Okay.
Let the messaging come to you. Let it line up. Let things line up for you. Don't think that you have to work so hard." Trump surely didn't work that hard getting elected. All he
No.
did was show up and everybody else lined the fish up for him. He didn't do any of that. He's not a master leader. He's a master messenger. He
Right.
messages things. He doesn't lead things. He doesn't tell people what to do. Well, he tells people what to do. He gets mad, and then they work around him to get things done. So, and what does he do? Sleep and rest. How do we know this? Look at his logs. Looks what he does on executive time. He's sleeping and resting and letting the world hand it to him. And then all he's got to do is come out and give all these micro, reckless messages.
The chopper talk again.
Yeah, the chopper talk again. And same thing with, many dictators, many leaders in this kinds of people. They have all these different people around them that get the fish in alignment for them to do the wreckage stuff that they do. They don't make the decisions. They just generally guide generally guide the vision. So I'm going to have you say that last sentence back to me.
That they generally guide the vision.
Generally guide the vision.
Yeah.
Generally guide the vision. And everybody says, "Don't message this, don't message this." He goes, "What are you talking about? I'm the one who got elected, not you guys."
Right.
He's generally guiding the vision. And and then finally, the people that are bucketing the water out of the lake or trying to put the fish in alignment that he keeps scrambling all the time. Now,
Well,
watch what
about it, that is a classic leadership move. It's just usually it's something intentional. I mean, think of Kennedy. We had no ability already established to get to the moon in 1962 or something. He says, we're going to go put a man on the moon and bring him back. And he had no idea, nor did he care about how they were going to do it. He set the vision and trusted the other people to figure it out.
Yes. Then they're waiting there. These scientists are waiting, and he shows up there and goes, okay, what'd you guys do? That's a lot of water to get out of the lake. That's a lot of fish to get lined up.
Sure is.
There was a lot of explosions between there and the things, and there were some of them that cost some of those people's lives.
Yeah.
Because that's what that does. It's not like people haven't died under Trump's watch.
Sure.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Hag then, as the sun is starting to set. Wait. Let me go back. The drummer was so grateful to the woman. Please, thank you so much for doing this. She goes, these things can be done easier than you think. And then leaves and goes back into the hut. Now you got to think about how big this hut is on the inside, because all of a sudden we got the Hag living in there. We've got a drummer that sleeps in there. It's completely dark. So how many rooms does it have? No one knows. First, now all of a sudden we got this princess coming out here. So stories like this don't make much logical sense. But what they do metaphorically is making all the sense. Because what happens then is, as the sun is setting, the Hag comes out of the... Oh, wait. She tells him one more thing. Before she leaves, she says, listen, see that row of fish over there? One of those, see those two fish there? They're out of order. See those two? Those fish are out of order over there. See those two?
Yeah.
When the Hag comes out, the Hag will point that out to you. When she does, go over there, grab the fish, and throw it at her and hit her in the head with it. He looks at her. He looks at her. He goes like, "Huh? Yes. Throw the fish and hit her in the head. Okay. You helped me this much. I'm going to take your message. I'm going to do exactly what you said." So goes in. Later, as the sun starts set, the Hag comes out. She says, "I told you this was easier than you thought. I told you could do this. Very few people get to this place." Of course, very few people, but they're all working themselves in an underpaid job. They never get to do this. They're bucketing somebody else's water out of somebody else's lake. They're not living their own life or living their own vision. They're not resting and saying, gosh, what would be a fulfilled life for me this time? No, they're working a job and getting underpaid for it and not asking for a raise and not leaving for a better spot. Say, screw this, let me out of this place. No, they are thimbling water. All those people making 30, 40, 50,000 a year. Oh my gosh, Tom. It's just so disheartening and so sad to even tell this part of the story.
It is. I know.
Gosh. All right. So the Hag comes out and says, hey, there's a fish out of order. He walks over there, grabs the fish, throws it at her. It hits her in the head. She stares at him, looks at him, turns around, and goes back into the hut.
Wow.
Now all of a sudden he's got 2 more tasks to go. He goes back in to the hut, spends the night there, wakes up the next day. She's already up. Comes out. She's standing by the forest with tools, axe, cutters, splitters, all the things that need to chop down a forest, and says, see this forest here? I want you to chop it all down. I think there's a little climate change problem here happening here. Chop all the forest down. Chop the forest down. That's your task for today. Today, you need to chop the entire forest down. So he grabs the tools. He starts chopping. What is he going to do? He already made his attribute. Notice this particular, he's very much in integrity of doing the things he says he's going to do. That's what it takes to run a president. Trump does the things that he needs to say and do. And even though the messaging is so consistent and so off the wall and so controversial, it's all about throwing the fish at the hag, getting up the next day and chopping the wood and working off the moment of what Fox Media is saying and is what is happening in the government, listening to all these different, but people give him little guidance points that says, I'm not saying that shit, I'm going to say this. And remembering that he is the marketing and sales person that sells sizzle and has no stake.
Right.
Sells sizzle, sells an airline, can't run an airline. He didn't even find the people to run the airline. Or if they say, Mr. President, you cannot put a marble sink in an airplane because if you put a marble sink in there, yes, it's first class, but the plane is now too heavy to take off.
Right.
They had to pull all that stuff out of all the stuff that weighs so much and heavy so much, and then, people will pay it. It's like, no, they won't. It's like, why travel in this luxury? No, no. So the main thing about it is that they're dealing with these tasks. The hag of the environment is you can't trick this hag. You've got to stay focused on keeping the message consistent, making the message land and get traction, and move on to the next message. When you do that, it's not a message of progress. It's a message of vision. It can't be a message of progress. Because if it's a message of progress, you get stuck in Hillary doldrums, the doldrums of the Hillary. This is what progress is like. I have this, I have this, I have this, I have this. People eventually didn't care because, well, not so much didn't care, is that they lost the vision of having a first woman president. She became benign to that point. She became benign to, we were going from a first black president to a first woman president. And we're able to do that in a very compelling way because we're looking at her resume. We're not looking at Trump. They didn't vote resume. They voted Trump. They voted sales and marketing. And this is one of the things that all the candidates have to really get a hold of. This is a marketing and sales piece. This is not a progress, what's good for America piece. You got to sell the vision of America, not the process of being an American. It's really unsettling for me to give this kind of level of truth, because if we're doing it the other way, then what happens is that he still claims the space of here's these messaging. And it's not an inclusive message, it's a separate message. And it's a little harder to sell an inclusive message unless you say, this is what America stands for. It does not, it stands for this. This is what America stands for. You have to be a reminder of what America stands for. Not, it stands for this, not for that. You can't say it stands for that. Because all of the people in Germany had to deal with that after Hitler was gone. After every single leader leaves the space, all the people around them have to deliver, have to say, okay, what do we stand for then? What are we going to be able to do? Well, the Marshall Plan for, post-World War II provided a framework for Germany to rebuild itself, Europe to rebuild itself, Japan to rebuild itself. It provided a framework. This is the way this society is going to go. And by the way, we're putting military bases around here to make sure it goes that way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how is America going to face infrastructure problems? How is it going to deal with the powers that be in corporate America that either from the fossil fuel industry or from the insurance industry or from the religious industry? How is it going to face those big giants? Well, they better get their 100 drummers going. More like 1 million, more like 5 million, more like, 15, 25 million.
Yeah.
We've got to get the drummers moving in the right directions. And small messages get the giant to consider that that's a good idea, that there's something in it for the giant if they just, carry this candidate forward. And then things will tend to go better. So,
Okay.
Tom, what's your extraction from this first part of the story? Because obviously we've got the poor drummer having to chop down a forest right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, I like the fact that he starts to chop down the forest, so he has some firsthand knowledge of what it takes to chop down such a large forest, but there's no way he's chopping that whole forest down in a day.
Right.
So, and hopefully he's going to learn that a little quicker this time.
That's what we're hoping. That's what we're hoping. We've got to hope that, you got to move, and take a look at all the different messages. The Joe Biden story with the thing is a great example of don't spend too much time chopping down one tree. Just set the intention of the tree falling. Set the intention of this is the message of this is why this tree is important. And then, really magical stuff will happen next.
Oh my gosh, I just got this mental picture in my mind, Bill, of probably every building that Donald Trump has ever done a real estate deal to build a new building. He's probably been there at the groundbreaking with a shovel, shoveled one shovel worth of dirt, moved on, let everybody else build the building, and said, I built that building.
That's correct. That's it, Tom.
Wow.
That's him right there.
Yep.
It's him right there. And what is he looking at? He's looking at supposedly important conversations, but he's really just, playing in the space of, oh, you say I can't do it, I'm going to do that. Oh, having a stake being distributed by, who was it that distributed them?
Was it Omaha Steaks or something?
Yeah, somebody. It's like crazy. It's like, oh my God, Brooks Brothers or somebody. No, one of the clothing line people did it, or not clothing, but oh gosh, I'll have to think about it now. But anyways, so yeah, it's like, I'm going to do it this way, and it's going to be successful. And when a person, the founders kind of knew this, by the way. If you let generational wealth move forward in the field of time, this is the kind of wreckage that you get. Yeah. This is why the estate tax is there. This is to get generational idiocy from moving down the line a little bit, because the person that the money that was handed it to, not everybody, and I know I'm doing a sweeping generalization here. It's really there's people that really struggle with this thing called, what do I do with this money now? I mean, and if they don't really have a strong foundation, this is a little bit of what you get, and it's just all kinds of different generational stuff that's problematic in regards to money and the energy that comes with it. So anyway, Tom, was this fun? Did you have fun today?
Yeah, definitely.
One of the things we're going to do next time is actually to talk about how this action between the drummer and the hag goes back and forth. Who are these women that come out and keep feeding him? And, what is actually happening in the process, because they're actually managing time. So the listener needs to, to be remembering is that this stuff is all about time management through messaging.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to manage time. I'm going to manage the news cycle. And this is why he keeps saying the sentence. Look at what we're doing in the ratings. Look at how the ratings are going. He's managing messaging and time. He's not trying to fix America. He can't.
He's not trying to fix anything except his own image and make himself seem important. And, it's all about him. Right?
Well, it's a great judgmental sentence. Now let's clean it just a tad up. It's about creating the level of respect, recognition, acknowledgement to boost self-worth that I did something.
Right. Even
if I wasted millions of dollars to do it. I did something wasting these millions of dollars. Such strong business practices. He's not adding value. He's taking value that was given to him and mixing the puzzle up and putting a couple pieces back together. But value? Nah.
No.
Okay?
Yep.
So,
sounds great. Okay.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Bill.
All right. More to come.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.